Hi there, and thank you for joining me for today's live reading of Breaking the Curse by J.C. Brown. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue, Argo. Alone, his world shifted and rolled with each tide. 100 lifetimes of longing lingered in the waters around him. They pulsed through the sea like veins in a creature far older and more unforgiving than any lover. This was Argo's ocean. The swirling depths were his home, his exile, and his prison all at once. His actions, foolish, careless, bound him still. Shunned by the denizens of the deep and seen as a monster by those on land. Time marked him not by days, but by the relentless pull of tides that waited for no one. This was his purgatory and his penance for breaking the heart of a sea witch. When he closed his eyes, memories of his past flooded back with startling clarity. A life filled with luxury and privilege that only some managed to obtain was relegated to a sad memory. Finery, wealth, and an education that opened doors to a world of refined pleasure, including a sea of beautiful women. Vanessa was one such beauty. Her laugh like the tide pulling him closer, her eyes vast and mysterious with a charming innocence that drove his need for conquest. But all the depraved deeds done with her were just for his own sport, entertainment, and satisfaction. If only he knew that the time they spent together meant far more to her than it had to him. If only he had known the depths of her wrath, he would have been able to avoid the curse she placed upon him. In his desperate early days, Argo avidly searched for a partner who could shatter the cruel magic and release him from this watery prison. He scoured the coral gardens and the twilight ruins of sunken cities, extending hopeful tendrils of conversation to mystical maidens and hesitant sirens that hummed beneath the shifting surf. But every hopeful invitation was met with terror. None dared offer a word or a touch, for word had spread like a dark current about the curse, Vanessa's curse, and the dreadful retribution it would bring upon anyone who tried to break it. In time, Argo ventured closer to the world above the waves, skirting the boundary where the sea met land. He learned new languages, swam up through smaller, narrow waterways that led him to bustling docks lined with ships, searching for women to entice. But his countless efforts to lure women into the sea often did not work out well for him. Those that did fall victim to their own curiosities fled the moment they caught sight of the monstrous appendages that protruded below his waist. Their retreat was punctuated by horrified gasps and bitter, condemning whispers. But words, once flung by him with callous indifference toward Vanessa when she revealed her true nature, a stunning Horven with that sinuous, mesmerizing lower body of an octopus, now echoed back at him. He remembered the venom in his own voice as he had scornfully branded her a monster, and now, hearing similar barbs hurled at him, still wounded his once arrogant and prideful heart. But the ghost of his past life kept his mind intact as he drifted through the ocean, a place so beautiful, teeming with life and ancient wonders that couldn't interest him less. He had become nothing more than a coward, condemned to wander the sea in search of something he clearly would never find, a feeling that had eluded him for his entire existence. Love. The deep, undeserved love Vanessa had once poured out for him was the elusive key that might unlock his freedom. Chapter 1. Bree. Why had she agreed to this? The yacht's relentless rocking motion churned her stomach as doubts swirled like dark clouds overhead. A glance in the small, round mirror revealed a reflection almost tinted green with sickness, a reminder of her vulnerability. With trembling hands, she fumbled through her clutch. Time for drugs, she thought bitterly. She popped a pill into her mouth, washing it down by cupping the steady stream of water from the tap and slurping from the little pool it formed. The cool water forced the pill down her throat, momentarily subduing her churning belly, yet failing to quell the storm in her head. Though the cramped bathroom offered a fragile sense of sanctuary, a place where she could pretend she was safely anchored on the solid ground, an insistent knock at the door shattered that illusion. "One moment," she murmured as she attempted to tame the unruly frizz around her face, a physical echo of the chaos churning within her. With a heavy sigh, she stepped out, offering a half-hearted, apologetic smile to the indifferent line of people waiting, her mind reeling with doubts about every life choice that had led her here. Quietly, she tiptoed back into the cavernous space that was the yacht's event room. Overwhelmed, her nervousness was palpable amidst the yacht's luxury. Hey now, let's put a smile on that face. It's not every day that you get such a big award and a party just for you, chirped Evie, her agent, with a grin and a playful wink. Bree rolled her eyes beneath a facade of forced cheer. If she were utterly honest, those sunny words stirred a dark urge to lash out, even though Evie, for all her know-how, had only just medicated her with half a Valium to ease her dread of the water. This could have been held anywhere. Bree groaned under her breath, her thoughts swirling with resentment. Why on earth set it up on a boat in the middle of the ocean? The absurdity of it all gnawed at her inner peace. PR, baby, Evie continued, her tone laced with charm and a hint of mockery as she teased. The artist who paints what she fears most, turning terror into inspiration. Evie's hands danced in the air as if sketching an ethereal metaphor, but Bree's heart was anything but convinced. Evie turned, pinning her with a sharp, serious gaze. Bree, she stared, her voice a soothing balm. I know this is hard, but you're doing so well. Bree laughed, a short, brittle sound. You mean I'm not running off the ship in a blind panic? You're not giving yourself enough credit, Evie replied, patting her hand. Her smile was gentle, coaxing. Bree wanted to believe her, to trust that this wasn't another expectation she'd failed to meet. She bit her lip, the familiar uncertainty prickling under her skin like a rash that wouldn't go away. She opened her mouth to speak, but closed it again, the weight of unspoken fears like a leaden anchor pulling her down. Evie watched her with knowing eyes. This isn't like before, she said, and Bree couldn't tell if it was a question or a statement. I know, Bree whispered, but it feels the same sometimes, like it will never be enough. I'll never be enough. You're enough, Evie insisted, and there was a fierceness in her tone that took Bree by surprise. More than enough. That's why I wanted to celebrate you. She waved her hands around the room wildly. Look around. Your fear has spun incredible portraits of oceans, cliffs, and beaches. Every place where land meets water becomes a canvas for your emotions, your creation. You make people see beauty and terror. Evie shrugged nonchalantly before summoning a server for more wine. Bree nodded, though doubt was still a steady drumbeat in her mind. She wanted so desperately to be the person Evie saw, the one who deserved all this attention, but the specter of her sister's voice haunted her even now. She stared out the window, watching the sunset bleed vibrant hues onto the restless waves. The blend of orange and red should have been beautiful, yet every color mocked her anxiety, stirring conflicting desires. The wish to capture nature's brilliance versus the dread of the very element that birthed it. Her daydream shattered with a familiar voice. Hello, Bree. It took her several heartbeats to process the sight of him. Andre Rousseau, a ghost from her past whose very presence still left scars deeper than any before. Her heart skipped, each beat a painful reminder that he still held sway over her, despite the months apart. Suppressing the sudden urge of butterflies, she offered only a curt nod when their eyes met. You two know each other, I take? Evie prodded, eyes darting between them. Yes, he began, but her voice snapped off as she cut him short. A glance at Evie, who was now busy with glasses of wine being served, allowed Bree to murmur, We knew each other. There was no pleasure in that truth. Soon after, a young server approached Andre with a respectful, Chef Rousseau, you're needed in the kitchen, the words causing a shift in his demeanor. Bree watched as the charm melted from his face, replaced by a frost she recognized too well. Ah, I must be going. Bree, we will catch up later, he said with a flicker of his old, captivating smile, a smile that irked and thrilled her all at once. Deep down, she knew he would seek her out later, just as he always did, leaving her no escape from their tangled past. As night dwindled, the celebrations lost their charm. The award was hers, her art had flown off the table during dinner, and Evie had even secured her an exhibition at Silver City's Brushstroke Boutique. Yet, These achievements felt like Pyrrhic victories against the relentless tide of her own heartache. Clutching her dress, the embroidered fabric crumpled tightly in her grasp. She tucked the award beneath her arm and cradled a half-empty glass of wine as she slipped away from the cacophony of voices and probing questions. They pried into her ocean-fearing soul and her family's secrets, into matters too raw, too personal for casual conversation. Needing solitude, she escaped to the topmost open-air deck of the yacht, a small, secluded haven far from the inky depths beyond. Even as she longed for the comfort of home, the very ocean that frightened her also provided a perverse solace, a constant reminder of what she both cherished and loathed. Then came his familiar, whispered intrusion. "Gabriella," Andre murmured, his voice thick with a French accent and the residues of alcohol, a call reaching for a name she had long abandoned. Feeling his body heat behind her and his hands tracing cold paths up her bare arms, she retorted sharply, "Don't call me that." Her real name was like a relic, one she had shed along with all that was painful. To the world, she was Bree Baker now. Gabriella had died with her past, with her sister. "Ma chérie, mon bébé," he persisted, every syllable dripping with a seductive warmth as his breath mingled with the chill of the night air. Then, with an almost ritualistic grace, he spun her around gently, appropriating her wineglass, and closed the distance until she was forced against the railings. "Perhaps you'd like it if I called you mon petit chou à la crème, my sweet little cream puff." The words tumbled out playfully as he drained her remaining wine and set the glass aside. His chuckle sent a shiver through her, rekindling buried desires even as guilt and conflict roiled within her. "You don't get to call me any of that anymore," she asserted, though her voice trembled with a mix of defiance and longing, betraying the turmoil raging inside. He smiled, an impeccable, nostalgic smile that dredged up a torrent of memories. With a languid motion, he traced his hand along her bare shoulders. "I can still remember why you were called that," he murmured. His hands wandered down her arms before sliding around to the curve of her back, each touch igniting both warmth and wound anew. Her body trembled uncontrollably, a battleground where desire clashed with the remnants of hurt. "Mon petit chou, cream puff," he whispered again, kissing the bend of her neck with a tenderness that belied the storm of their past. Even as her pulse quickened, every caress reminded her of shattering losses, broken pieces that could never be mended. "No," she managed, a firm rejection that belied the softness in her eyes. With one hand, she pushed away his hand, while the other clutched the award like a shield against vulnerability, a symbol of all she had fought to preserve. Despite his persistent, almost pleading smile, she saw the irritation in his gaze as he slowly straightened. I can't do this with you, Andre, not again, not after what happened last time." Her words stumbled out, soaked in regret and hard-fought resolve. He sighed deeply, leaning closer, his hands settling on her hips as if trying to bridge the divide. "Please, Gab," he began, faltering when he met with her steely glare. "Please, ma belle, when will you forgive me?" Her voice, layered with both sorrow and defiance, cut through the charged atmosphere. "I don't know. When will you stop treating me like something you own?" It was a reminder, a bitter echo of why they'd fallen apart. He grimaced, the charm that once softened him now replaced by something unyielding. "I have given you everything you could ever want, yet it's never enough. I ask so little, yet you constantly defy me, and then you leave me." His hands cradled her face with a mixture of tenderness and authority. For a forbidden, fleeting moment, she almost leaned into the comfort of his touch, but then, with a tremor of defiance, she brushed his hands away. "Countless times you abandoned me, left me waiting, feeling foolish and alone." Her voice gathered strength. "Every time you slipped away, I was left to mourn the loss of us, to wonder why I was merely an accessory in your grand show of life." Gathering her dress again, her resolve hardened, even as her words poured out raw and unrestrained. "Countless dates, you ditched me halfway through dinner to be in some glamorous kitchen, chasing your reputation. All those gifts and fancy dinners, it meant nothing when all I ever wanted was you." And then, as she turned to leave, she became painfully aware of tears streaming down her face. In a sudden, desperate act, Andre grabbed her arm, halting her escape and twisting her to meet his gaze, a gaze filled with a confusing mixture of pain, regret, and longing. He tenderly wiped away her tears and pressed a soft kiss onto her cheek, his gesture both consoling and agonizing. Inside, her heart waged a war, a tumult of desire for his familiar warmth and the relentless instinct to protect herself from further harm. She had once loved him so deeply that she overlooked his faults, clinging to every flawed promise. But now, the weight of abandonment, sleepless nights, and endless lies anchored her in a reality too heavy to bear. In a blend of soft French and hesitant English, he murmured, "Please, I'm sorry, mon petit chou à la crème. Have dinner with me this Friday and let's talk. I never knew how deeply you suffered." "I'll think about it," she replied curtly, her voice a brittle mix of lingering yearning and hardening resolve. With that, she distanced herself, turning her back on him and leaving him standing in the dim, conflicted light of the open deck.